Here we are at the perfect time and the perfect place, showing up with an open mind and all this space. Anything can happen here, we all play a part. Here's an invitation to the center of the heart. Take my hand, here we go. What's the plan? We don't have to know. Take a breath, make a sound. Welcome home, center of the heart. Here we are at the perfect time and the perfect place, showing up with an open mind and all Thank you for this Holy Spirit. Thank you for this Holy Spirit. Thank you for this Holy Spirit. Thank you for this Spirit. This Spirit. This Spirit of your love. This Spirit. This Spirit. This Spirit of your love. Thank you for my life, Spirit. Thank you for my life. Thank you for my life, Spirit. Thank you for my life. My wonderful, life. My wonderful life. Thank you for my health, Spirit. Thank you for my health. Thank you for my health, Spirit. Thank you for my health. I pray you well. I pray you well. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This here, this here, this day. This here, this day.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Very warm welcome to you this morning from Unity of Calgary. If you are a longtime member of our community or a short-time member, or perhaps this is the first time you've discovered us online, a very warm welcome to you all. We are thankful for this day. My name is Susan Cullen, and I'm part of the spiritual leadership team here at Unity of Calgary, and I'm delighted that you are here joining us this morning. The most important thing you need to know is that wherever you are on your spiritual path, you're always welcome here at Unity of Calgary. So let's begin by going within with an affirmative prayer. I invite you to gently close your eyes, to take a deep breath in, and to connect to your heart. Breathing in gratitude for this spiritual community as you affirm for yourself. When I am feeling fear or doubt, I know that I can reach out to my community and they will hold me and remind me of my true divine nature, which is whole, perfect, and complete. Nothing has the power to separate me from my truth and my center of love. And I, in return, do this for those as well, those in my spiritual community, in my family, and in the world. For I affirm that I am a beacon of light and love. And so it is. So we gather together, whether it is hopefully soon going to be in person. At the moment, we're still online. As things continue to improve, we're very hopeful that we will be meeting again in the not too distant future in person. We'll keep you updated on that. But whether we are meeting online, virtually, or in person, we affirm our statement of being, which is the statement of why it is that we gather together in spiritual community. I invite you to affirm it with me together. We are here as love to celebrate the one power, the one presence in our lives, in this community, and in the universe. And I would like to invite Neil Thressel to read our daily word today. Take it away, Neil.
Sunday, May 31st. Love. I am the loving presence to everyone I meet. It has been said that the world needs more love. The truth is, that all love the world could ever need is already present everywhere, because God is love and God is present everywhere. Created in God's image, I am divine love in human expression. I know that love is much more than a positive feeling. Divine love is the energy of oneness itself. As I remain centered in divine love, I know oneness in God with all people, including those who are dear to me and those I have never met. Divine love helps me see good everywhere and in everyone. I look beyond conflict and limitations and find the good that is always mine to discover. Beloved, let us love one another because love is from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. Book 1 of John, chapter 4, verse 7. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Neil. And of course, if you want to read the Daily Word every single day, you can go to our website, unityofcalgary.org, and we have the Daily Word. Just scroll down on that first page right down near the bottom. And if you would like your paper copy, we did get in some of our May, June 2020 copies, and you can contact me at my email address, which is awakeningpossibility@me.com. It's all in the newsletter this week. And I can arrange for a pickup or to get one to you. So let's continue on with our morning here. Unity of Calgary is part of a worldwide movement, and there's almost 900 centers around the world that are bringing the same message of spiritual awakening and oneness and love to their spiritual communities in the world. I invite you to affirm with me our mission, which is also the mission that was adopted by the worldwide unity movement. We envision a world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of shared spiritual awakening. And how we do that here at Unity of Calgary is captured by our mission statement that was created by our community a number of years ago, and it's just so relevant even today. I invite you to affirm, we are a welcoming, vibrant spiritual community that inspires hearts and transforms lives by expressing our divine essence. And indeed, that is what we do, not just on Sundays, but in every day, in every way, as we live our lives. So some of the ways that we do that is captured in our announcements. So let's see what we've got. Next week, we have Alara Payton, who is our prayer chaplain trainer, longtime member of our Unity community. And she's going to be speaking about conscious cultivation of personal and communal well-being. So we look forward to that next week. Today, after our gathering is finished, we will have our coffee chat on Zoom. So you can find the links to that on our website, again, unityofcalgary.org, and they're also in the newsletter. So if you would like to join our coffee chat, meet, and virtually meet. We get to meet each other and find out how each other's doing. It's quite lovely to connect at that Zoom chat afterwards. Last week after our service, we of course had our AGM, and it was a huge success. I'm so pleased and so grateful. We had more than double the number of people that we needed. Legally needed to run our AGM for quorum. And it just really warmed my heart and affirmed how committed and beautiful our community is together and how we co-create our community together. We elected a new board member, John Burgess. We are so delighted to welcome him to the board and bring his energy, his presence, his ideas, and his heart. So we're delighted to have you, John. Welcome. We have our prayer, or our Hell in the Hallway, our book study. We got a little mixed up last time and didn't have our final session. So we have rescheduled to this Tuesday, June the 2nd at 1 p.m. The Zoom links are in the newsletter. I believe it's also, the Zoom links are located on the website. If you go into the calendar, look for the event on that day, the Tuesday, June 2nd, and the links will be there. You can always email us if you're having trouble with that, and we'll make sure that you get connected for that. Our Wednesday evening prayer connection is now complete. The prayer chaplains did that for the month of May. It was a beautiful offering, and we thank them so much for showing up in that way, for supporting our community. And as I said, that's now complete. So how to contact us. We have our website, unityofcalgary.org. We're on Facebook. We have a community group on Facebook. I don't know if you've been on there recently, but that's the place where you can post things, connect, have conversations. That's the place where you can really reach out and connect and support your spiritual community and the other members of your spiritual community. So I invite you to go there and see what the latest chit chat is and what people are interested in and what they're posting. Of course, we have our YouTube channel, and our most important way to connect is through our newsletter. So if you haven't signed up for our newsletter, you can do that right on the website. There's a sign up place that says sign me up for the newsletter. You'll receive it once a week with all the links and all the information that you need to know what's going on. So I invite you to stay connected and to bring your presence in all the ways that you do to our spiritual community. So let's hear some beautiful, inspiring music from Anthony Burbidge and the Unity Band as they sing "We Are Called."
We are called to find peace within as we wind our way through life. We are called to find love within as the storms rage on outside. We are called to look within again, the part that does not change. We are called to rise above our fears, so our hearts can lead the way. We are called, we are called, we are called through it all. Every hateful word, every grateful stir, we are called, we are heard, we are called, we are called, we are called through it all. In the place of pain, in the face of fear, we are called, be healed, we are called. We are called to know there is no need to fear what storms may come. We are called to love the life we lead, for our lives have come from love. We are called, we are called, we are called through it all. Every hateful word, every grateful stir, we are called, we are heard, we are called, we are called, we are called. Your call.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much, Anthony and the Unity Band. When I found out yesterday that I was looking at the schedule for today and saw that We Are Called was going to be performed, and I don't know, I've had it sort of running through my head ever since. I think I've got this tiny little Anthony in here who's singing. I don't know if you can relate. So I wonder if you take a moment, what are you being called to in this moment, in this time, to really connect with that and to feel the love around you as you connect with it. So our message today is being given by Katie Grinham. And if you've been part of our community for any length of time, you will know Katie. She is definitely the heart of our community. And Katie is on the spiritual leadership team. She served as president. She served 6 years on the board. She's an intimate part of every part of our community. And outside of Unity, she is an amazingly talented healer. She's a craniosacral therapist. She has, well, for me personally, she's healed me on all kinds of levels, not only on the physical level, but emotionally and spiritually as well. And she brings a wealth of wisdom to all that she does. And so I'm delighted this morning that she is going to share with us about My Heart Knows Well-Being. So please help me welcome Katie Grinham.
Good morning, everyone. Well, I'm delighted to be here. Well, I'm here in my house, but I'm delighted to be here with you. And as I was getting ready for this talk, I was thinking about how normally I move around a lot. I use my arms and hands, and it's part of my expression. And I was thinking, what is it going to be like to be actually just sitting in my chair looking at the thing? And I thought, wow, I don't know what this is going to be like. And then I thought, you know what? If Reverend Doug can do this, so can I. Because he and I are two peas in a pod. We're both always walking around, moving around, waving our arms. So thank you, Doug, for pioneering that for me and holding the space. So I know that I can do it too. All right. So this morning, we're going to be talking about the heart and this idea of the heart having a knowing. That was a thing that struck me about the theme. The theme for this upcoming month is My Heart Knows Well-Being, no matter the circumstances. And what really stuck out was the word knows, that my heart knows. It implies that it has this wisdom, this inner connection and awareness. And isn't that how we experience it? Through the millenniums, the heart has been referred to by poets, mystics, philosophers, religious teachers as this important aspect of our being, that it has a wisdom, that it has a power. And we kind of connect with that on some level, but I don't know about you, when the chips are down, sometimes I'm not always sure how to get that wisdom out of my heart. So we're going to talk a bit about that this morning. And at this time of year, it's usually the graduation, for the grade 12s and those graduating from post-secondary school. And of course, with COVID, it looks very different. But the message is still the same. Don't we say to our young people, follow your heart? It's like that's pretty much the best thing that we could say, isn't it? Or if someone is trying to make a big decision about their career or about a relationship that they're in, somewhere along the conversation comes back to this idea, you weigh the pros and the cons, but eventually it comes down to saying something like, well, just follow your heart. And it's a beautiful concept, this idea of following our heart. And we seem to embrace that, even though we don't always know what that means. And so I thought, well, I wonder where this comes from, this idea. And so I kind of just looked on the internet. I mean, isn't that what we do nowadays? We look everything up on the internet. And what was interesting, what I found is that they speak about that the heart, if you're going to speak from the heart, it essentially what you're saying is you're going to speak one's mind by telling all of one's heart, right? So it's this idea of exposing or speaking from a depth, a richness, right? It's not just a shallow response. You're going to come from your heart. And it implies a vulnerability, doesn't it? If you say, well, I'm going to speak from my heart, you think, ooh, that person's reaching in. They're saying something that is valuable or deep, or at most, kind of raw and exposing. And one of the words that I saw linked to the word heart when I looked it up was linked actually to the word courageous, because in Latin, the word cor, C-O-R, the root core, C-O-R, means heart. So initially, that's what the word courageous meant. To be courageous meant that you spoke from your heart. Isn't that interesting? It had nothing to do with bravery or heroics. Not at that time. It started out about being willing to speak from your heart. And so the person who speaks about the heart these days with a place of clarity and conviction, of course, is Brené Brown. And so I took this quote from her, and it says, courage is a heart word. The root courage is core in Latin from the word heart. And it speaks about that. Oh, it says, over time, this definition has changed so that now it tends to mean bravery. But she says, in her opinion, this definition fails to recognize the inner strength and the level of commitment required for us to actually speak honestly and openly about who we are and about our experiences, good or bad. Speaking from our heart is what I think is ordinary courage. Isn't it? Ordinary courage. And I think it's got two parts. I think it's about speaking from our heart. But first of all, how do we know our heart? How do we receive the messages of our heart? And where does that come from? How are we connected to that? And in science, we know now that from quantum studies that the body is made up of light, literally. It's of photons of light. And that, though, makes up an electromagnetic field that we all radiate. And that this field, can go up and down, and according to how we feel and how we relate. One of the most interesting things about this electrical field is that the electrical field around the brain and the electrical field around the heart are very different. The heart's electrical amplitude is 60 times greater than the brain. 60 times. And what that really means is its amplitude. So it's what it's radiating out, but it's also its ability to perceive is far greater. And in the movie I don't know whether you saw that. It's a great movie if you get a chance. We've shown it a couple of times at Unity. They did a study done by HeartMath. And in the study, they had this person hooked up with electrodes on their brain and on their heart. And they were showing them pictures. Some of the pictures were upsetting, like, a car accident, someone hurt, people starving. And then there were pictures of like puppies and sunsets and all good things. And so they were flashing these up and then recording how the brain responded and how the heart responded. And so, they thought that's what the study was going to be. But what they really discovered was that the heart responded before the brain. The information from the electrodes came from the heart before the brain. And at first they thought that was a mistake and they tried to fix it, but it wasn't, right? It was real. That's what was happening. The heart was picking it up before the brain. And if that wasn't cool enough, what then happened was they started to realize that the information, like the heart was responding to the picture before the picture came up. The pictures were coming up automatically on a cycle on the computer. No one was adjusting that. But the heart was responding knowing that it was going to be a positive picture, and then responding with anxiety when it was a negative picture before it came up. Isn't that extraordinary? And so the heart knows, but haven't we all kind of experienced that at some time? You know, when they're in a situation and you can kind of feel something's happening, right? Before you get all the information, you can feel like sometimes, you know, our heart is anxious. We feel a bit anxious and thinking, okay, you know, what's wrong with me? Why don't I calm down? We're anxious for a reason often, right? Something's happening. Something's being perceived in the greater world. And our heart is picking it up first. And that's really kind of cool when you think about it, that the heart has this ability of knowing that. It makes you think that the heart must also have some wisdom then, doesn't it? Because we have our physical heart and we think of our spiritual heart and our emotional heart. And they all seem to kind of, you know, be together. And I was kind of thinking about this. What if there's some truth to that? I kind of think about the physical, the emotional, the mental, and spiritual kind of coming together. And as I was laying in bed last night, I was thinking about how perhaps it's not random that the heart has 4 chambers. Yeah, right? That it has 4 chambers. So what if those 4 chambers of the heart are all doing something different? I mean, yes, they're pumping blood around. They're doing their physical job. We know that. But I started thinking, well, I wonder what they would be. I wonder what they would be. And I thought, well, the first thing is perception. We know that. Heart math is showing it. So it's perceiving things. And then isn't it also that our heart is feeling things? We feel. We feel sad. We feel joyful. We feel confused. We feel things. And these are happening in the heart. It's not just an intellectual process. It is happening in the heart, especially if we go into meditation. I don't know about you, but, you know, if I have to make a decision and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to get centered, and I'm going to go into my heart and figure out what's best for me. And when I go into the heart, what do I find but a deluge of unresolved emotions, right? It's like, no, I don't have time to deal with this right now. You know, the sadness about, you know, this issue or that happened with my sister and my brother and my mother and my uncle and my aunt and, you know, God knows what else, right? And it's like, oh man, it's all in there. It's like the storage site of stuff. And I think it all gets backed up where? In our hearts, literally, in one of those chambers of our hearts. And what if when we get a heart attack or a blockage in our heart, it's just gotten to be too much? It's too much. It's blocking it up. You can't move it through. It can't get out of it. It's kind of an interesting concept, isn't it? And then I started thinking, well, what actually gets stored in the heart? Well, I think what gets stored in the heart is anything that has an emotional charge, because we know from science that it has a charge. But you think about it, everything that happens to us in our day doesn't get stored in our heart or in our muscles or in our muscle memory. Only the things that have charge. So what I mean by that is something that's really positive, we store that. Ooh, that was nice. We store that into our hearts. Or something that we think is challenging, upsetting, disturbing, that has a charge as well. And when that is, then those are charged, restored, because remember, we're electromagnetic. So that electromagnetic charge is stored in the heart. Interesting. I don't know. Is this a fact? Not necessarily, just my thoughts about it. And I wanted to share those with you. So so we have one chamber that's perceiving things. And then we have this other chamber that is feeling things. And what if another chamber is the knowing? What is that? The knowing part, right? That the heart knows, like it has this wisdom of the ages, right? Wisdom of ages, or maybe wisdom of spirit, God, the creator, whatever word you use to describe that. What if that wisdom, what if that's where it is? That's where we can source it, right? That's where it's filed. Wouldn't that be great? It's not always easy to get there, right? Because you got to go through those feeling part to get to it. But there's that knowing. And this idea that it is right there with us, that we don't have to go outside. Now, there's nothing wrong with learning and expanding our conscious awareness, right? That is part of, I think, why we're here. We're to expand and learn in our soul. And this is just kind of the guidance system inside, that knowing that we have. And then the fourth chamber for me would be about the being, right? We would be that. Just be, emanating love. That's where the love just emanates. We have all those parts. So when I was thinking about knowing, it reminded me of this class that I took 2 years ago through Unity. The class was called The Christ, and it was offered by Eliza Bloom Robinson. She is a wonderful teacher, by the way. If you get an opportunity to take a class with her, it's so experiential. It was online, but she managed to bring it alive in ways that really moved me. Because, in Unity, we do believe that the Christ is within, right? We believe that the knowledge, the knowing, the essence is within. Okay, so we've learned that, but what does that mean? What does it mean? How do we learn that? So in this class, when we were discussing it, she brought up a particular scripture from the Hebrew scriptures. And, to be honest, I'm not someone who's well versed in the Bible. I'm more of an affinity with the New Testament. And so the Hebrew scriptures, it seems like, way too much killing over there for me. But anyway, lo and behold, in amongst all that was the covenant with Jeremiah. So she spoke about Jeremiah 31, verses 31 to 34. And it really impacted me. And I wanted to share that with you this morning. First of all, she talks about the different covenants that God had made with his people before. And so he makes reference to that. But then he comes in Jeremiah and he's going to make a new covenant, right? A different covenant, it says. But this covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, says the Lord, I will put my law within them, and I will write it on their heart, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. No longer shall they teach one another to say, no longer shall they teach one another or say to each other, know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least to the greatest, says the Lord. Wow, right? It's really impactful when you think about this. That was way back then. Way back then, they were saying this, right? They'll put it right inside our heart, that we don't need a priest, we don't need a Pharisee, we don't need a guru, we don't need some person who thinks they know more about God, and you can only get to God through them. And that was way back in biblical times. What happened? Right? Why did it take all the way to the 21st century for us to be acting from that place? I mean, it's wild, right? There it is. It actually says, I will put my law within them. I will write it on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And Eliza Bloom speaks about it this way. She says, the law does not mean law like do this, don't do that, thou shalt, thou shan't. Law meant back then information. it meant guidance. And so she says, when we think about it, we speak instead of the principles and the underlying way of being. That's God's plan. That's God's way. The very principles that describe how to bring goodness and wholeness into our lives, describe that what God is and how it shows up in our lives and our universe can be discovered in the center of your being, of my being, of everyone's being. God's way, God's law is written on my heart. I discover it, I embrace it, and I live it. See, imagine, maybe that's why our hearts have wisdom. Maybe it's how we've been created. What if it is how we're created? What if we arrive here, whole and complete, and that we have this written on our hearts? You know, the other thing that came to mind for me about it was, you know, when those of you who have had a child, right, and you're holding this little tiny itty bitty vulnerable wee baby in your arms and you're thinking, oh my God, you know, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to look after this precious, magnificent little being. And, you know, we often make jokes about how we wish it came with an owner's manual. But what if it did? What if it comes? Each little being arrives with it written on our hearts, right? It says, I am precious and whole. I am part of the wholeness and the oneness. I am loved. I am light, right? You know, and who do I belong to? I belong to humanity. I belong to love. I belong to this whole thing. What if it actually arrives with that? And we taught our children from a very young age. I don't know about you. I grew up in the United Church, but I never learned this passage, right? I did not learn that the wisdom was inside me. And I think back in biblical times, this was not good news. They kind of jumped over this covenant. I mean, the 10 Commandments got a lot of publicity back then, right? Because that's the way that the church and the government, which were very linked back then, right, controlled the people. Can you imagine saying, well, you know, all you need to do is follow your heart? They were not up for this. And we're struggling to do that ourselves right now with this thing with COVID and everything else. You know, are we being told to follow our hearts? Well, yes and no. I'm not sure. What if it's, you know, actually true that it's in our hearts and we come knowing that? That would be kind of extraordinary, wouldn't it? And some of the great religions do know this, like Buddhism, Hinduism, any of the Zen, any of them where they talk about going within to get your answers, going within to connect with God. And Christianity and Hinduism, Judaism, they didn't really grab onto that at that time. They kind of went by it. Now, everything's expanding. The consciousness is expanding and more it's coming in. But this is part of the gift that Charles and Myrtle Fillmore brought back in the late 1800s. This idea that the answer's within, that the Christ consciousness, isn't that what we're just talking about, what we just described? It's the Christ consciousness is written on my heart. It's inside me. I am it. I radiate it. I live it. And I can consciously connect with it more deeply or not. But it never goes away. I can't lose it. And I can't, you know, lose my privilege and I don't have to earn it. You know, we are it. It's just there. And what if we actually grew up that way? You know, it's kind of extraordinary. And I think it's worth kind of thinking about when we go to share with younger people on the path, but certainly for ourselves to spend more time and trusting. Where does self-trust come from? What if we can trust because we know our essence? We know our wholeness. We know our goodness. And we can rest into that. Rest into the peace and the knowing that. And that when we turn to our heart, we're going to find it all. Right? We're going to find our perceptions, our feelings, our knowing, and our love. And then my final thought about this is, what if we kind of have this in our heart, just sort of like, our dogs have tags so that we can find them if they get separated from us. When our dog gets separated and you look on the tag and it says, if lost, return to. So what if that's true for us? What if when we get lost, if there's someone in our lives or we get lost, we feel confused, overwhelmed, not centered, unclear of what to do, where to go? What if we go to our heart? Because our heart knows well-being. Pretty good advice. Standing the ages of time, all the way back from Jeremiah. Thank you. Be well. Okay, just remember, I'm supposed to introduce the
I surrender. I trust and I know that as I surrender, I fall into the arms of love. I trust and I know that as I surrender, I fall into the arms of love. I surrender. I trust and I know as I surrender, I fall into the arms of love. I fall into the arms of love. I fall into the arms of love.
So let's now do just that. Let's fall into the arms of love. So I invite you now to get comfortable, to sit down deep, deep into your chair, to let your body relax, to let go, and bring your awareness to your feet. Imagine that they could sink down, down into the earth. And Mother Earth receives our energy, welcoming and connecting us as we rest in, letting it all go. What if some of those feelings that have been in your heart, some of those thoughts that have been a bit challenging, what if now, here in this moment, you could begin to just let them go. Just let them be. Don't try and change them, but imagine that they are kind of melting into the darkness, into the quiet behind your eyes. the stillness, resting, releasing, letting go. Taking a breath in and slowly out. And another deep breath in and slowly out. Resting in. Letting yourself be. And imagine now that the strength and that sense of belonging from Mother Earth comes up your legs, all the way up your body into your heart. That radiant, powerful heart, that heart that is radiating 60 times more energy than the brain. That this heart has all that you need. Resting into it. Discovering what's there for you this morning. And the feelings, the thoughts. It's all right. Whatever is there, let it be. Let it be. And knowing that the other part of your heart is alive and well. That deep knowing, the guidance, the clarity, the peace, that it too is there. Breathe in. And imagine connecting into that part. My heart knows. My heart has always known. Resting in and being still. Be still. Know. Just take a moment to be in the stillness. Being aware of your breath. That's it. Noticing how your breath is perhaps a little calmer. Let it expand. The wholeness radiating from the heart. And know that our heart is ever being energized by the loving presence that's connecting to it always. And we symbolically think of it as a light, as sunlight. Imagine it like a brilliant white light above you, shining down, bringing a sense of rejuvenation, vitality, energizing us, coming down over the head, over the shoulders and wrapping around right to the heart. What a perfect connection, what a perfect fit. Mother Earth below, the loving presence light above, and all connecting in our knowing heart. We're thankful for this time together. We're thankful for the reminder that we can do this for ourselves at any time, at any moment, that we need no supposed higher teacher, For it is written on our hearts, each and every one of us, from the least to the greatest, have no more or less of God within. It is only our awareness that expands. We breathe this in. We know this to be so. And so it is. Thank you.
I can see laughter, or I can see tears. I see a choice, love or fear. What do you choose? I can see peace, or I can see war. I can see sunshine, or I can see storm. What do you choose? I choose love every time. I heart where the light keeps shining. I choose to feel the whole world bright. I choose love. I choose sharing, or I can see peace. I can see caring, authority. What do you I can see burden, or I can see wall. I can see life, or death, or what do you I see the love every life. My heart where the light keeps shining. I choose to feel the whole world crying. I choose love. I choose love. I see us healing, darkness dying. I see us dawning, one world united. So what do you choose? Love or fear? Oh, we choose. I choose to love every time. My heart where the light keeps shining. I choose to feel the whole world crying. I choose to feel the voice rising. I choose to feel us all united. In eyes of love, I choose love. I choose love. I choose
All right. Wow. Thank you so much, Anthony the Band. I choose love. Indeed, I choose love at every opportunity. And to Katie, thank you so much for those beautiful words of wisdom from your heart. I thought that was really brilliant the way you framed that in the four chambers of the heart. So thank you so much for that beautiful reminder that no matter what's going on, we always have that choice to connect to our heart and to choose love. So thank you so much for that. And now we enter into the time of conscious giving together using our time, our talent, and our treasure to create this wonderful spiritual community that inspires us and sustains us. And even though we're not meeting in person, we have chosen as a community to continue to meet here online, virtually, to keep our community as intact as possible, because we know that we are more than our building. We are connected through our hearts. And so from this place, we say a deep gratitude for your love offering, knowing that it's so important for us all to stay connected at this time. And your love offering helps us to do that. So there's many ways that you can donate. You can send an e-transfer to donate at unityofcalgary.org. You can go to our website, and there's a donate button right there on the front page. And if you want to do it the old-fashioned way, you can do that too. And you can send a check. The address of our new location, which is where we are receiving our mail now, is on our website. Again, the website is a wealth of information, and I really invite you to go and check it out and see all of what's there. Ariana Brackenberry and our communications team is doing a fantastic job of making that resource just so helpful and so inspiring and so wonderful. So if you've got a question, I suggest going there first, because that's where you'll find your answer. All right, so let's do our abundance affirmation together. I invite you just to take a breath as we affirm. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And as we contemplate this spiritual community that we have created together, I invite you to enjoy listening to Anthony and the band sing Give with an Open Heart. All right, and I notice in the comments that there seems to be a little bit of a technical issue happening on Facebook at the moment. So hopefully it will resolve itself, and if not, perhaps you might want to switch over to the YouTube feed. So this broadcast is being broadcast at the same time live to both YouTube and Facebook. So you can check the links you know where to go. Go to the website and maybe switch over to YouTube if that's causing a problem. So I will let the technical people and you figure that out for yourself as we continue on. I hope you enjoyed singing that song. To me, it always brings back a feeling, like a real feeling of community, as if we are together. And now we have our blessing for the children, the beautiful children in our lives, the children of the world, and our very dear own inner child. I invite you to affirm, we love you, we bless you, and we appreciate you just the way you are. And now let's take a quiet moment and bring to our awareness anything that we want to surrender into prayer. For we know that turning it over to Spirit opens the way for abundant blessings to unfold. If you prefer, you can also submit your prayer request on our website, and it will be sent to our prayer team and to Silent Unity for 30 days of prayer. Also remember that you can always access the 24/7 prayer line of Silent Unity down in the United States at 1-800-NOW-PRAY. And we have confirmed that that phone number does still work. So that's where you can go. And whatever it is that you want to get off your heart, that you want to lift yourself up into prayer about, we also hold in love all the other unities across Canada who are bringing the same message of spiritual awakening. And in particular, this month, we are holding in love Unity of White Rock and Unity of New Westminster. So let's now affirm our prayer of protection together. The light that is God surrounds me. I am one with the light. The love that is God enfolds me. I am one with the love. The power that is God protects me. I am one with the power. The presence that is God watches over me. I am one with the presence. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. And so it is. Amen. All right, are you ready to do some more singing? Let's enjoy the band, and you can sing along to Return to Love. All right, we return ourselves to love once again. So I'd like to say a big thank you to everyone who makes this broadcast possible. You would be surprised to know how many people it takes to make this happen. And a very special thank you to Neil and Tina Thressel, who are our production team in bringing us our service online each week. I just can't tell you how grateful we are that they are bringing their expertise and their love and to help us bring this service in this way to you. Also to everybody who is a part of the team to make this happen. It is a tremendous amount of work each week, and we're so grateful for all that you do in your contribution to co-creating our spiritual community. So as we finish up today, we would like to send a wave of peace out into the world. And I hope that I will see you on the Zoom chat for a coffee chat. We'll have about a 5-minute break after we finish here. You can go to the bathroom and get yourself a glass of water, a cup of tea or coffee, and then we can gather once again on Zoom to have a chat and a little catch up to see how we're all doing. So connect to your heart, connect to your wisdom this week, and let us sing, Let There Be Peace on Earth. Have a beautiful week.